Hey, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so this is an introduction around your body as a whole in terms of the very crux of how our body operates, how our body promotes healing and repair, how our body works. And it's actually different to what you might think, right? Because we have this understanding of how our body works on a very mainstream scientific level, okay? And coming from obviously a pharmacy background, in my entire year of masters, we very focused on physiology, and how this affects this, everything was very logical and scientific and explained out. And that all makes sense to a level. But there are actually deeper aspects that we don't cover in mainstream science. And actually, when we look into the Quran and our Sunnah and things like that, we start to see signs of something that's deeper, right? And so it's about understanding everything on a holistic perspective. And that doesn't mean that the science is wrong. It just means that um, science is still learning. Science is, the core concept of science is that you constantly are learning new things and building on what you know. It's an evolving process. And so that means science, by definition, is never going to have all of the answers, right? It's constantly just going to be learning and learning and learning and learning and learning, right? So that means that when you have something that is you're feeling that is wrong with you, or you're having symptoms that science doesn't really explain, it just means that you have to start looking elsewhere, because science will never have all of the answers and you can't expect it to. Okay? So to give you an introduction, I want you to first take you back to the crux of human life itself. And human life starts when the soul enters the body of the baby inside of the womb. Okay, that is when human life starts. And when human life stops, right, it's not at the time of death. It's not when the heart stops beating. It's when the soul is taken out of the body. So when the soul comes in, the body comes to life. When the soul comes out, the body shuts down. And so even if the body might be healthy, there's no kind of previous complications or medical conditions or anything, there will be times where someone will just drop and pass away with no symptoms, no warning signs whatsoever. And why is that? And we see actually these videos all over the internet, like an imam was doing a sermon, or he was at the minbar and he's doing a speech or doing the Friday khutbah, and all of a sudden he just drops and he dies, right? So how can science explain that? And they can't really. They can't really explain that. Um, and this is exactly why they try and do autopsies and things, because they want to understand and they want to learn more, right? But the answer is that the soul was taken out of the body, right? So the point here is that the soul, if it's going inside of the body and it creates life, and when Allah decrees for the soul to come out, the body dies and life dies. That means the soul actually is our life force. It's the thing that's keeping us alive, is our soul, right? It's not just our heart beating, it's the soul that is powering the heart to beat. And to kind of help you just understand and visualize a little bit further. For example, let's go back to, for example, say we're in a classroom, as in our science classroom, right? And I remember when we were in our science classes, we used to have we used to do the little circuits. So we used to have a little battery, clip two cables on the end, and the other end of those cables, we used to then clip it onto a light. And as soon as we clip it on, the light would come on because it was a full circuit. But as soon as we unclipped it, or we separated it from the battery, the light would turn off. So even if the cables were working fine, the light was working perfectly, there's nothing wrong with it, but the battery is what gave it the power, right? So the battery helped the light come on, and without it, even if everything else was functioning fine, without it, it will never come on. And so in this case, the soul or the life force that's within us, that is kind of what is at the crux of operating and powering our body through the mercy, through the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So when it comes to health, when it comes to disease, when it comes to inflammation, when it comes to chronic pain, the one thing science does not do is say, well, how is how are these issues connected to the soul? And that is one thing it doesn't do. And that is why it will never have all of the answers until it starts to make that connection. We connect physical symptoms to, stomach. If we have stomach aches, we'll connect it to the heart. If we have blood pressure or a heart problem, we'll connect it to the different organs. But we don't realize it's actually going to step further. That it's not just the physiology, it's on a deeper level. There's actually a soul there that's fueling and that's powering all of these things. And so the issues that are kind of affecting these organs might not actually start from these organs, might not actually start from these areas, but might be starting from the power pathways that are supposed to be powering these organs. Okay? And it's a huge insight. It's a huge learning. And it's very hard to understand that learning, especially if you're here and you're new and you've never heard of these concepts before. It's going to be very difficult for you to first acknowledge and open yourself up. So I just want to invite you not to just accept everything, but I just want you to invite you to open yourself up to a possibility, and just invite you up to start doing a little bit of your own research so you can understand it in your own way. Okay? So let me give you some perspective. So the soul is kind of our life force. And so in essence, what it's doing is providing a life force energy all around our body. And we know this because actually there are energy channels all around our body, right? And how can we prove energy channels exist? Hijama is our proof that energy channels exist. Hijama generally, like on a surface level, people think, oh, hijama is good, it's beneficial, it's sunnah, but people don't actually really understand how it works. And by all means, it does help on a very physical detox level where you will apply the cups and it will help detox that area. It will help improve symptoms. But actually, what it does is that it's promoting your energy, right? It's helping your energy to flow better. And that is how hijama works, because when you apply cups on your body, you actually are applying it on energy channels or energy points even. And there are sunnah energy points. I think there's the one there, top of your spine. And so there's like a few energy points that are recommended, but based on what condition you might come to your hijama practitioner. And I'm also a hijama practitioner, so I've done all of this learning already. And that was probably my introduction actually. But if you go to a hijama practitioner and you tell them, look, I have a liver problem. The doctor said I have liver issues, etc., etc. Can you do some hijama on me? Right? It's weird where the liver is, right? But the energy point for the liver is actually on the back. And based on what symptoms you have, based on what other conditions you have, there are different energy points that is actually promote healing to that particular area. So it's interesting. So that's number one, is the fact that we know energy channels exist. And we also know this because there are actually a lot of therapies out there, like tapping. So tapping is when you tap, and what you're doing is you're tapping your energy points. right? So that is also out there. And energy is something that has been in cultures and history for centuries and centuries and centuries, right? In our culture, they kind of refer to an energy channels as latifas. You know, um, energy channels sometimes are also called meridians. Um, Even in the Chinese culture, they have qi. And qi is actually the energy I'm talking about. It's the life force energy. It's what's beneath everything, right? And we all know, we all seen these examples, on TV, or like when they're doing all of these qigong and things like that, how they are kind of at this higher consciousness. They're more at peace. They're a lot healthier, and it's kind of like mastered. They've mastered life. They've mastered health. They've mastered their heart. They've mastered their mind, right? So this is the kind of thing what we're getting at. So it is all about mastering. Um, so qi is also part of Chinese culture. And so we know, and there's a lot of things they do to help your qi and to help the energy to flow again. Okay. Um, so if I go back to the example of the battery and the light. So we've got the battery, we've got two cables that connect the battery to the light, and the light switch is on. Okay, so the battery is your soul, and your meridians, your energy channels, are the cables. And so what happens is, with the exposure of your environment, with the exposure of the diet that you consume, with the exposure of lack of exercise, with consuming all of these toxic fumes and radiation, like the air is contaminated, our water is contaminated, we are surrounded by TV, phone, technology that are all radiating all of these, signals and things that are kind of we're absorbing all of the time. We're also obviously physical trauma. So if you get into an accident, if you fall down, you hurt yourself, etc. And so all of these things affect those cables, and it kind of like puts blocks in all those cables. So when it comes to that light is flickering now. That light is not shining as bright as it once did because the energy has been affected. And so that light isn't just the symptoms that you're feeling. That light is the heart, is the stomach, is the kidney, is your body, your physiological body. And so now you are getting aches and pains. Now you are getting, really bad ulcers all the time. Now you are, really struggling to breathe. Now you're just feeling so lethargic, or you're depressed, etc. Now now you kind of develop an autoimmune disease because, your body's now acting on itself because somewhere deeper down, its programming has been disrupted to such a level that it's now attacking its own body, right? So it's about understanding how your symptoms not only connect to your physiology, but how your physiology connects on your energy, right? And your soul and your life force energy. Because when you kind of heal those areas, then your physiology will improve. But because we only focus on the physiology, what we're doing is we're ignoring that energy bit, and actually a lot of the crux of all the root of those issues start there. So the concept of how I work with clients is we need to remove these blocks in your energy channels. And when we do that, we actually improve health, vitality, healing, blood flow, circulation, all of these things, right? And it helps your body to actually get in a better state where it can actually refuel that healing process. Because our body's natural mechanism is to heal. If you fall down, you'll scab up, right? If your blood sugar goes up, you'll have insulin to bring it down again. It's a negative feedback system, and that's how our body works, and it's always there to promote life, to promote healing. And so we need to get our body back in that state of healing so it can heal and repair and improve. And at the same time, what we need to do is we need to control these external factors. And one of the key things about that is emotional healing. And I have another video about that below if you want to check that out, because highly